what did you think of, and what did some of your callers think? You get input from your listeners of the way Joe Milton handled this, that it was an unknown for a couple of weeks, definitely a week longer than it should have been. What was your take on that? And what do you think is the general consensus among Tennessee fans?
Yeah, we heard a little bit about that, but we had one caller who was simply asking, "Hey, wait, did he decide this today, or how does this work, or did they already know and they just announced it today?" And this whole process has been confusing for a lot of people. I have struggled to keep up with who has announced their decisions for next year because I've also known about decisions that have been made. Like Jabari Small just announced a couple of days ago. We knew a few weeks ago he wasn't coming back. He wasn't around the program at all. Quarterback's different, of course, than other positions, but we heard very little about the timing of the decision. It was more about the excitement of getting to see Nico.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, but as things shake out, should Tennessee be frustrated? I think there were a lot of guys who were unsure that were on the team. That to me is was bizarre, and I can't help but think that as many things as I like Josh Heupel for, maybe he is a little too nice in some situations.
In which regard?
Well, just I would have wanted a decision as soon as I opened camp. I don't think that would be too much to ask. And a guy's going out there and practicing for a week. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure, but I'm just welcome to college football. That's the way it works. I'm not saying like it, but
sure.
like Florida State's quarterback Rodemaker just made his announcement a few days ago, right? But here's my defense of him: Florida State has been active in looking for other quarterbacks, so every situation's different. Want to point that out. Pratt at Tulane, I don't know that his announcement was any sooner that he was opting out of Tulane's bowl game than it was for Tennessee with Joe Milton ahead of the Vols bowl game. So, yeah, I think Tennessee's known for several days now that Joe was not going to be playing in the game, and he is still around the team. He'll be helping Nico get prepared. I think it's overall more just readiness to move on and see what Nico can do in a bowl game. I'm sure they would like to have John Campbell there at left tackle. I think that's probably a bigger deal. Wish we could have our starting left tackle for next year playing in this game. And of course, Javonte Spraggins, there's no way he could play with the injury he suffered, but it's an offensive line that will not be at full strength, at least going in for Nico. I think those are, if there was a to change list, I think they would change those situations before they'd change the timing of Joe's announcement.
All right, portions of the program brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Do you buy any of this? And then Caleb loves conspiracies more than me, so I know he wants to jump in here. But do you buy any of this that Josh Heupel and Joe Milton, they knew secretly that they were going to do this and they kept it to themselves, and not even other offensive coaches or players knew? Are you buying any of that?
No, I'm not. Now, I mean, word started to kind of leak out that, hey, Joe might not be playing in this game more than a week ago. So that's not just people on the outside talking. That's coming from the inside. So if people on the outside are hearing that, then people on the inside are hearing more of it.
Yeah, when somebody texts you back and they say, well, they can always announce on social media, that you get a pretty good idea that they're unsure. And that's the only part that I would knock Joe on, is having his team unsure. Sorry, Caleb, jump in there.
Yeah, so I just on a broader sense, Josh, it's funny because, when I was, Dave and I actually used to debate this last year. I don't know if Dave remembers that, but is it time to put the rest of the debate over whether or not players are wrong for choosing to opt out of their bowl games? Because I've insisted for a long time, if you're not in a playoff game, it's a win-win if a player not coming back next year opts out. They get to focus on the draft. You get to focus on future players who are actually going to be on the team next year. So isn't it kind of a win-win when star players like your quarterback or Jalen Hyatt last year opts out? Like, should fans really ever be upset at players anymore for opting out of a meaningless bowl game? Not meaningless, but a bowl game that has no title implications?
Well, I would say yes and no to that. I do think often we see an overreaction in players opting out of a bowl game. It's it's changed completely. When Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey did it, it was the talk of college football because we weren't really seeing it at that time. So these two running backs, who, by the way, they were protecting their status as top 10 picks at the most dangerous position to play in the sport in terms of trying to have long-term success in the league. And they got crushed for it at the time. Now we're seeing players that fans across college football haven't really even heard of that are opting out of bowl games. So it's changed completely. But I'm also not going to tell a fan, hey, you care about your team. It's a sport that's built around 12-month out of the year passion for a sport that plays 12 regular season games. Don't care about the 13th game. So I think we need to be careful about how much we react or how over the top the disappointment can be, because you have to recognize players are trying to do what's best for them, like coaches try to do what's best for them. The comparison I've made going back to the McCaffrey Fournette year is, hey, wait a minute. If you hire a coach and you expect him to leave his team to come to your school and skip out on their bowl game, then how can you criticize players who make the same decision to make their next move? But you still want to win the game. So I wouldn't say that, hey, it's better for a team to lose its best players. Like, I think the better thing for Tennessee would be for Jalen Wright to be starting at running back for Tennessee, so they would have a better chance to beat Iowa, because winning is better than losing. Like, what if you find out that these players you're excited to see aren't any good? That's not.
But at least you find that out.
What's that?
At least the coaches find that out then.
Well,
that
realistically,
they have the whole offseason.
To do what? Because what if they can't find a replacement? So realistically, the coaches know who's good and who's not in certain areas. So if I had to guess, if Josh Heupel could pick a fully engaged Jalen Wright playing in the game or not, he would say, yeah, I'd like to give the ball 15 times to Jalen Wright with a freshman quarterback out there against Iowa's defense. I'm sure that he would like to do that. So, but you can have both. You can say, well, I'd rather have Jalen Wright, but I'm excited to see what Cameron Seldon can do in the game. Well, I'd rather have an extra veteran defensive back out there, but at least I get to see what Ricky Gibson can do in this game. So you can have both. That's why we need to be careful about being over the top. But I'm never going to say it's a benefit to having a worse chance to win the game.
No, and I look at this game, and I think there will be more excitement with Nico than there was with Joe. My argument with Joe and that he shouldn't play was just like the very same advice I would give to my son. I would completely understand him not playing, and I thought it was the better business decision move for him. I didn't think there was anything he could gain by an average showing against Iowa. He needs to go out and wow people in the combine. And for those that don't know, a 40-yard dash, Josh, you've run one of the fastest sports media times in Knoxville.
That is accurate.
That is accurate. And it's a low bar. But it is not like it's not football. What you're doing out there and those cone drills, that's not football. So go practice in that for a little bit, kind of like playing Frisbee golf, to make yourself a better football player, because that's what you need to do. And spend your time doing that in December instead of getting ready for Iowa. That's what I would have told him.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault a player for deciding to opt out. I'm also going to look at a player who decides, I want to play one more game with my team and say, okay, hey, if that's what you want to do, go for it. A year ago, Jalen Hyatt decided to opt out. I had no criticism of the decision. Darnell Wright, who ended up being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, said, I want to play one more game. I said, cool. That's good for Tennessee. Like, there's an example. You wanted to find out what Tennessee had behind him. I think Tennessee was better off having Darnell Wright against Clemson last year than what was going to end up being behind him in 2024. But to each his own. It's not like everybody's opting out. There are NFL draft picks that have been and will be playing in bowl games over the next couple of weeks. So whatever a player wants to do, and every situation is also different in terms of their coaching situation, their own draft status, all of that. But Joe, in this case, he has a Senior Bowl invite. He doesn't have much to gain, really, based on how much tape is out there and what his physical attributes are. Maybe there's something to lose. Obviously, he could suffer an injury. Or, what if he goes out there and doesn't play well against Iowa? That could have happened. He's looking at his offensive line saying, wait, they're not at full strength. I don't have my running back that I've been playing with. I don't know about this situation. So that every player is in a different spot. I think fans need to understand that. The media needs to understand that. I think a lot of times when we talk about players' decisions, whether to play in a bowl game or not.
Yep, I agree with that. There's a lot at play in that. And there's a lot at play from Tennessee's side. Our poll question that is on the YouTube channel. Let me see where you would fall in this. Nico will blank against Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. The blank is play exceptionally, too talented, play adequately, first start, great defense, struggle, tough position versus great defense. Care to guess which one is taking control, and what would you vote for, Josh?
What was the tick above adequate?
Exceptionally. It was an adverb Thursday.
I would like right now, I would say adequate to realistic expectations to help with a win. So some would say that's exceptional in a first start, but I would describe it like the numbers he'll put up, the plays he'll make as adequate with a high bar.
Yep. Great stuff. Josh, we appreciate the time. People need to go to offthehooksports.com. 5 reasons a strong bowl performance from Nico will prove valuable for 2024. Really good piece. Josh, we appreciate it. Hope you had a Merry Christmas with the little ones and have a great New Year's. And the next time I talk to you, that be a whole different year, man. It's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah, talk to you guys next year. Look forward to it. Read the piece. It's my my last push for a Pulitzer in 2023, so I need the help.
Pulitzer, you're setting the bar too low. You're passing Pulitzer. Yeah, you're picking up something bigger.
That would just be adequate if I can pull that off.
All right, buddy. We appreciate it. Josh Ward, his appearance brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. They have the showroom in Athens. They deliver to you. They've got incredible discounts for first responders, military personnel, and they've got some blemish models too that you can save a lot of money. Yeah, I think the general feeling is pretty simple. It's a little bit more simple than I thought. It's whatever the reason is, it's Nico time. And it's whether Joe stepped aside because he was told to step aside, or whether Joe stepped aside because he felt he should step aside, or whether Joe tripped on his way to the podium. It doesn't matter. At this point, he doesn't want to play football or Tennessee doesn't want him to play football. And now people are just excited about Nico. So as much, Caleb, as I thought it might hurt his perception throughout and later on in life, maybe it won't. Maybe there's no real negative reaction here.
There's none. And I want every fan who's opposed to opt-outs and has a problem with players opting out. Well, if you got a problem with players opting out, well, then I hope you're not excited about Nico playing in this bowl game because it was only made possible because of a Joe Milton opt-out. Okay? So This is why opt-outs are good. You want the bowls now. I'm sorry. I don't care what you guys say. Bowl games now are nothing more. If they're not a playoff game, they're nothing more than a game to see what you have in store for next year. That's it. That's all that matters.
Can I ask you a really weird question that just popped in my mind? Should he be on this sideline where he could potentially get hurt by somebody getting slung off the field? I mean, I have seen that happen before. Yes.
He'll probably be like on the sideline on the bench, though, talking to Nico, like when Nico comes to the bench and things like that. I doubt he'll be standing right on the sideline where players get slung.
Do you want him looking over your shoulder? Maybe
I don't think he's going to look over his shoulder. I think he's there to help. I mean, Hendon Hooker wasn't looking over Joe Milton's shoulder when he was on the sideline last year.